Hi, Living Roots family. Welcome to Candid Conversations. I'm joined by Jessica, my good friend today. Thank you for being here, Jessica.
Thanks for having me.
I hope that if you're just joining us, that you could watch the prequels that I've made. They're 3 little mini videos to set the foundation for the direction of these interviews. We interviewed Sam earlier, and today Jessica. So we're looking forward to continuing the conversation of racial reconciliation with our church family specifically, so that we can grow in awareness and build empathy and compassion for our brothers and sisters and lead to action and how we would respond in light of the gospel. So I do want to recognize, Jessica, that having a conversation right now on camera that's going to be shared with our church family can be a bit vulnerable, sharing personal story. And I just want to thank you for offering to share a bit of your life in a personal way, and know that that's not always a very easy thing to do. So I just want to recognize that and thank you for being here.
Oh, thanks for having me.
So the first question I have is, what is your heritage?
Okay, so my heritage is I am half white and half Mexican. My mother is all white, and then my father is all Mexican, and I was raised by my Caucasian family. And so I would say that I am just half Mexican.
Okay. And where were you raised?
So I grew up in a state that was predominantly Caucasian, and I remember there was maybe one black kid at our entire school, and I don't remember seeing at all any brown kids at all. So it was a very different upbringing, and I can remember even sitting on the playground as a little girl and trying to scratch my skin off because I felt like I didn't belong, and I thought that if I scratched my skin color off, that I would be white underneath like everybody else. And so I felt throughout the years that I didn't really belong in, are you white or are you Mexican? So, yeah.
Thanks for sharing that. So kind of in line with that, has your race ever contributed to a problem or uncomfortable situation in your life?
Girl, all the time. So again, with the not fitting in the white setting or the Mexican setting, having children of a Mexican man or men, I never fit in. I could never make tamales good enough. I could never speak the language because I was born and raised here in the United States. I didn't speak the language. And so I felt very just judged and like I didn't fit in the Mexican culture. I tried very, very hard. But, and then with the Caucasian culture and the white culture, I feel like people see my brown skin and I am assumed that I'm, half something or that I'm Mexican. And I've had white people, I was driving down the road one time and I had a guy yell, "Go back to your own country." And I'm like, I am in my own country. I've never even been to Mexico. And so, yeah, I've had lots and lots of situations where things like that have happened.
So not Mexican enough to be Mexican, not white enough to be white. Thank goodness for the gospel of Jesus Christ, who we have full belonging and identity as children of God. Not to at all downplay your pain. It just sounds like a lot of bad news with identity, when our identity is placed in a race. Although there is a racial identity, I totally recognize that. So that had to be really hard to not feel like you fit in any environment or circle that you were in. So,
Thank God for Jesus, yeah.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. So in your experience, how has the church either aided or hindered the topic of racial reconciliation?
So I would say it has done both. I'll start with the hindered. I think predominantly, and I will say that I am in the master's program for public administration and studying politics, and so I do have a bias in politics, and it's really a bummer to see how they have become just so polarized and just the complete opposite. And if we really look in the middle is where we will find Christ. But
So how has the church, how have you seen
Oh,
the
yeah.
church
Thank you.
respond to the topic of racial reconciliation? And it sounds like you come with a perspective that has a more political bias because of your area of study.
Absolutely, that's what I was trying to say, and thank you for reminding
Yeah.
me of where I was going. So yeah, specifically in certain areas where I will hear that the church in itself has been against people of color or immigration, it just kind of breaks my heart. And it just definitely has made me even come into the situation having my already pre-biased belief that that's how all Christians feel or think, when that's pretty much the opposite of the gospel. That's the opposite of how the church ought to be. You know, we are a church that should welcome immigrants and welcome the lost and the poor and the weak. And so, yeah.
I just hear the theme of identity. Still, if we're going to have the identity that aligns with a political party that over our identity as Christ followers, there's going to be division. And I thank you for acknowledging that and saying that. That's been a big space of tension that I've seen in the church, is just the stark contrast between two viewpoints when it comes to issues of social justice and why abortion is a right issue and civil rights is a left issue, as opposed to being about the heart of God and the things of God, and that being our starting point and not a political platform. So so I thank you for acknowledging that. I do believe that the church is so divided on these issues because of political polarization, and when the heart of God is to be about his work and to bring the kingdom of God on earth and to be unified and to lay down our alliances to anything that is other than Christ for the sake of the gospel. So you are walking into a field where there's such polarization. So as an ambassador for Christ, it's going to be exciting to see you walk with grace and humility and chasing after the things of God, and letting the political bias fade, right? May we be Christ biased only. So
Absolutely. And then, so I do want to talk about how what drew me to Living Roots in the beginning was these people just knew how to love. I'll just say Art and Christina, they know how to love regardless of your skin color or your background, and that's not them. That's the love of Jesus inside of them. They're just obedient to Christ, and I have never, walking with them, have felt that I've been thought of as less than because of my skin color or my social status or my political affiliations or any of that. It's always been about Jesus. And so what I love so much and what has been exciting is that the church, this, Living Roots, is actually having racial recognition or reconciliation conversations, and talking about the heart of Christ in it all. It's not about politics. It's not about who you are, where you come from. It's about who we belong to and his love for all of us. We are actually, coming from that little girl who scratched her skin off, who wanted to be loved and belong, to we're just loved because he made us unique. To find that we're actually different colors on purpose because of him is amazing.
Amen.
And I love these conversations, and I look forward to seeing what God does in the future.
amen.
Yeah.
God is a beautiful, creative God who is about redeeming his people and unifying his bride. So Thank you again, Jessica, for being here, for sharing your heart. And thank you for church family for journeying with us through these interviews and conversations. And we're trying to be very candid and grace-filled and open about a topic that has created so much division in the church, to just breathe life into what this looks like in light of the gospel. So love you all, and stay tuned for our next interview. Bye-bye.
Bye.